Get your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.
Tables are so commonly thought of when one speaks of a database that the terms are practically interchangeable. A table is an organized structure that holds information. It consists of fields of information into which we enter our records. A field is simply a single column in a table consisting of one category of information. A record is a collection of related data fields that describe a single item contained in the row in the table. Now, after creating the data model for your database tables, you will want to actually create the table structures in Access. At least at this point, Access will make it easy for you to do so. You can start by creating the tables in Design View. To create new database tables, first click Tables in the Objects panel or at the top of the database container if you're using Access 97. Then click the New button at the top, or once again at the right if using Access 97, of the database container. This will launch the New Table dialog box. Here, select Design View in the list of methods available of how to create your database, and then click OK to bring up the table's design view. Now, in Design View, you will not see the actual data that is stored in your table, simply the structure of the table itself. You will, however, have greater control over the structure and properties of the fields within your table. You begin by entering the field names into the field name column. Next, for each field that you create, you must assign it a data type by using the drop-down that appears when you click into the Data Type column to the right of the field name that you entered. Each field that you create must have a data type assigned to it. This tells Access as to what type of information, such as text, numbers, date, time, currency, you'll be storing within that field. Note that in Design View, the window is divided into two panes. We have the Design Grid at top, where we enter the field names and data types. We then have the Field Properties section beneath it. In the Design Grid at the top of the Table Design View, there is a small gray box at the extreme left end of each field. This is the Row Selector button. You can click this small gray square to select the entire row. You will need to do this frequently in Access, so become used to where this object is. Now, the Field Name column is where you type in the names of the fields in your new table. Field names must be unique within a table and should be brief yet descriptive. If you plan on having anyone write VBA code for this database in a module, you should also consider not placing spaces within the field names. Although Access doesn't mind spaces in field names, some other programs do, such as Visual Basic for Applications, which is the language used in the modules in Access. Also, the order of the fields that you type in this column will be the order that they will be displayed from left to right in the Datasheet view, which is the view that allows us to see the actual data that we enter into the tables. So after assigning a field name, you should assign each field a data type. The data type informs Access as to what kind of data will be stored within the field, such as text, numbers, date, time, currency, or others. The default value is text. Now, in relational databases, the more varied kinds of data types that exist in a table, the quicker it will be in the future to index and query those tables, so feel free to change the type as needed. We have many different data types available to us. Text is the most common. Text contains text or a combination of text, numbers, and other information. Its maximum length is 255 characters. Memo is simply a longer version of a text field. Its maximum length is 65,535 characters. Number can contain only numeric data that you want to perform calculations on, not phone numbers or zip codes. As we do not perform calculations with those numbers, they are typically stored as actually text fields. Date time contains a date or a time code, and it's useful for date-time calculations and date-time fields. Currency is similar to the number data type in function, but it's pre-formatted as currency. It uses fixed point calculation, meaning that there's always 2 decimal points of precision, which is faster for Access to use than the floating point calculation used in a number field, where there might be any number of decimal points. In that case, before it can handle any data in a number field, it has to align all of the numbers by their decimal points. It's a step that gets omitted with the currency since there's a fixed number of decimals. AutoNumber assigns a unique numeric ID to all records entered in the table. This is useful as a primary key field. Yes/No stores a logical data type of yes/no, true/false, on/off, but what it's really storing is either a -1 for true or a 0 for false. This is used when only 2 possible values in a field could exist. OLE object connects a field to another Windows application. You can use OLE object data types to link additional graphics, documents, or video/audio files into a table. Hyperlink contains a hyperlink to an address on the World Wide Web. And Lookup Wizard guides you through the process of setting a lookup field, which will then contain values from another table or query, or values that you enter by hand. It's useful for creating drop-down boxes in forms. So after you select the correct data type, note that you could also put a description for any one of the fields. So if you feel that the name of the field is not self-explanatory, you can type a description to the right. It is optional. Now below the design grid is the actual field properties section. And here you will see the properties or characteristics of the currently selected field displayed on 2 tabs called General and Lookup. You can edit or set the properties here for the selected field in the design grid above. We will look at some of the properties that you can change for selected fields in later lessons, but for now it's just good to familiarize yourself with where the properties are located.
Like what you see? Pick up your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.